Okay.
The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi.
No. Oh my God.
I was never raised in a way
There we go.
that would be running for public
Just a
office.
little lower.
Interested me when I graduated from college. I got married and 5 children in 6 years. So that was my life. The opportunity for Congress came along. She ran because another woman said run. And she
Mary, are you here?
starting on a path that would make history. The first woman Speaker of the House. For our daughters and our granddaughters today.
Mary, I have a question. I have many questions. First question is the Virgin Mary a leader by any chance?
I did feel a real responsibility to other women as I stood on the shoulders of those who went before. Now it was her turn to say run. And
No.
when they did,
Is the Virgin Mary in the fifth dimension?
once again, we didn't have a speaker who
Yes.
would bring a gun bill to the floor. We didn't have a speaker who would bring it.
Have you ever talked to the Virgin Mary?
And that's good for every American.
No.
But not everyone was on board.
Nancy Pelosi.
If you could talk to the Virgin Mary, would you?
I would have a gentleman to say one. The power of the speaker is awesome. Awesome.
I see. Is that a B or an A? I think that's an A.
You want to go into the arena,
A
you
and
have to be prepared to take a punch.
you
have to be
can.
prepared to throw a punch for the children.
So you can. Did you just say that you can talk to the Virgin Mary?
From running the house to
Yes.
Speaker of the House.
So you can talk to the Virgin Mary, but you don't talk to the Virgin Mary. Is that true? Is it that you don't want to bother her? Is that why you don't? No. You just don't want to. Yeah.
And now, please welcome Speaker.
Well, I won't ask why you don't want to, because that seems like that would be very personal. But thank you for answering.
More than 60% women,
Um,
people of color, and LGBTQ. Our diversity is our strength. Our unity is our power.
Mary, is it possible to communicate with like our deceased loved ones, like say like my grandmother and whomever, without the Ouija board?
Proudly, 90 are Democrats. To win the vote, women marched and fought and never gave in. We stand on their shoulders, charged with carrying
S.
forward the unfinished work of our nation,
O.
advanced by heroes, from Seneca Falls to Selma to
M.
Stonewall. 4 years ago, when President
E.
Obama and Vice President Biden were in the White House, they made us proud. And
D.
their leadership made our country great.
O.
In that spirit, we come together now.
Some do, like mediums, I guess, like they can do it in their head. Is that true? Like
That is the guiding purpose of House
some people can.
fighting for the people. We've sent the Senate bills for low
Yes,
healthcare
you wrote
costs,
yes.
for
So
basic
how
government protecting
how do you know?
general
How do they know the difference between just thoughts in their head and the fact that they're really talking to deceased loved ones in their head?
LGBTQ
I'm
equality,
curious.
gun
How would
violence,
one
and
be able to
preserve
discern the
our
difference?
planet for future generations, and even more. All of this is possible for America. Who is standing in the way? Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump.
6
Our nation faces the worst health and economic
S
catastrophe in our history.
E
More than 5 million Americans are
and
infected by the coronavirus. Over 170,000 have
E.
died. The science-based action, the HEROES
Sixth
Act was
sense.
enacted 3 months
So
ago.
you're saying that they have the sixth sense. Is that true? This is when you have the sixth sense, you just know.
And who is standing in the way? Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. Instead of
Would
trusting
people
the
with the
virus,
sixth sense
they're
be able to
trusting
hear it
the
like
virus.
audibly in their head?
Pre-existing conditions.
Like how I heard you once in my
The
head.
Speaker of the House
Is that what it's like?
has seen firsthand Donald Trump's disrespect for facts, for working families, and for women in particular.
Yes.
Disrespect written into his
Wow.
policies toward
So,
our health
did
and
Joan of Arc, did she have the sixth sense? Because she heard lots of voices, I
But
think.
we know
Joan of Arc, you know who she is? Did she have lots of Did she have the sixth
And
sense?
so we are unleashing the power of women to take our rightful place in our national life by championing a woman's right to choose and defending Roe v.
Ah.
Wade, securing safe and affordable
C.
child care,
A.
preserving Social Security and
N.
passing equal pay for equal work. Who's standing
T.
in the way? Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump.
K.
So here's our answer. We will
N.
remember in
O.
November when we will elect
W.
Joe Biden president.
So
His
you
heart
can't
is full of
know.
love for America, and with the country,
Okay.
Trump's heartless disregard for America's
You're
greatness.
not privy to that information. Is that what you meant?
Joe Biden gives him the courage to lead. Joe Biden's love gives him the strength to persevere. Joe Biden is the president we need right now. Battle-tested,
Yes.
forward-looking, honest, and authentic. He has never forgotten.
Mary, I know that Enochian angels, though you told me that those are myths. So, are those are there any archangels that exist? Like, I don't know, whatever an archangel is, like more than, I don't know what. Are there any archangels that exist?
Our brave men and women in uniform and their families. We will increase our majority in the House. We will win a Democratic majority in the Senate.
Yes.
We will elect Kamala Harris vice president, and we will elect
Mary, what is an archangel?
President of the United States of America. God bless you, and God bless America.
Thank you, Speaker Pelosi.
L.
The House is the people's house.
E.
And to ensure it
A.
stays that way, we need
D.
everyone to help fund our work to elect
E.
Joe Biden and Democrats up
R.
and down the ballot. If you are
Leader.
able, please go to
So,
joebiden.com now.
the leaders,
Whatever you
known
do
as the
to support
fates,
this
they're
bill.
archangels.
Last year, under Speaker Pelosi's leadership,
that true?
the House reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act. Joe Biden wrote that landmark law nearly 30 years ago.
Mary,
Since then, he and other leaders have built on it. But for all this work, women are still not entirely safe.
Okay.
So work must continue. Joe Biden knows
Mary,
that
is there a
and
certain
is
way to
committed
pray
that work to making sure
to
that
get a
women are
spirit
safe
guide?
and
I know
to
someone
ensure
that wants a
our
spirit guide, or
voices
they don't know if they have a spirit guide. Is there a specific way to pray to get a spirit guide?
My name is Ruth.
Say someone wants to get a spirit guide.
My husband shot me and left me for dead.
No.
For 13 years, my son and I have been abused by him. We finally escaped.
There isn't a way. So how does one get a spirit guide if there's no specific way to pray? How does one get one?
Local shelters were full. I didn't even know the name for what was happening to me.
W.
Domestic violence.
E.
Now working to end domestic violence
A.
is my life's work.
R. E. F. S. E. N. T. All right. I got F, but it looked like there was an F in there, but I think the F was a mistake. Did you write "We are sent"?
My name is Carly Dryden. In my small hometown, I didn't feel like I could speak out about my experience.
So that F was just noise. When "We are F sent," you just meant "We are sent." Is that true?
I went from survivor to advocate.
Yes.
As the president and CEO of the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, I think Joe Biden's
Would praying to leaders, would that help people get a spirit guide if they wanted to? Could they say in their head, leader, or fates? They're called fates, right? Fates, leaders. Send me a spirit guide. Would that help people get spirit guides?
Joe Biden is that kind of leader. I created
No.
the Joyful Heart Foundation to help survivors heal
Okay.
and to change
Well.
the way our society responds to sexual violence. The Vice President has worked tirelessly by our side to
Okay. Well, I'll move on.
hundreds of thousands of untested
Mary,
rape
is the fifth dimensional body more or less opaque than the fourth dimensional body?
But it sends a vital message to survivors that what happened to them matters.
M.
The most important thing you can say to a survivor is, I hear you.
O.
That's why I became a leader in
R.
It's a program started by Vice President Biden to
Mary, I once looked up like a cube, and I looked up like the mathematical representation of a third dimensional cube, a fourth dimensional cube, and a fifth dimensional cube. And I noticed that the fourth dimensional cube was a lot more like the third dimensional cube than the fifth dimensional cube was to the fourth dimensional cube. I was wondering, are those mathematical representations, are those like really accurate to what it's like in the fourth and fifth dimension? Like, is a humanoid body in the fourth dimension? Does that actually look like analogous? Like for real? Like literally? Like would a cube in the fourth dimension, not the human body, would a cube in the fourth dimension look like a representation of what I saw that a cube looked like here in the third dimension?
Stabbed me 13 times and broke my neck when the police were on the scene. I nearly died and I am permanently paralyzed.
Yes.
Senator Joe Biden.
And then a fifth dimension, so you said yes, and then a fifth dimensional cube literally looks like what I saw on the computer a fifth dimensional cube looked like. Like it literally looks like that in the fifth dimension. Yes.
At the time, the police considered domestic violence.
That's amazing.
That was not a crime. In the home, it's a private matter. And so women were responsible for their own injuries.
Mary, someone wanted me to ask this. Is there something analogous to using the restroom, like going to the bathroom, peeing and pooping, in the fifth dimension for like spirits like you? Is there something analogous to that? What I consider like using the restroom?
He told us when a bully, when someone bigger or stronger takes advantage of you, that is a very grave sin.
Well, that must be nice. What about in the fourth dimension? Is there something analogous to using the restroom here in the third dimension, but in the fourth dimension?
We were then expected to stand up and do something about it.
No.
When Joe introduced the legislation, few believed it would pass.
That's interesting.
An ambitious undertaking. It is the first attempt to address violent crimes against women.
Mary, are fairies in the fourth dimension? I might have asked you that before, but not really. Are fairies, do they live in the fourth dimension?
But Joe doesn't give up.
I know wisps do.
Joe persevered, and he's very good at persuasion.
Yes.
They're doing it now.
Mary,
He brought together
like, if there's not fairies here, and there's not wisps here, or not a lot of them here in the third dimension, like, did they die here in the third dimension? Did they die? And that's how they go to the fourth dimension.
About domestic violence were shaped by his leadership on this.
Yes.
You see something wrong?
Can they be killed, or do they die of like natural causes,
If you're just joining us,
or both?
coming up, we're going to hear from President Barack Obama and Senator Kamala
Yes.
Harris, who will talk about the Biden-Harris vision for the future.
Okay, that wasn't a yes or no question.
For that more perfect union, we have to
Or it was like a
acknowledge
couple
where we are.
different questions.
Today in America, we
Do
are
they die
struggling.
of natural causes
Unemployment has
in the
spiked.
third dimension?
Families
Fairies?
are fighting to keep their jobs. As Joe
Yes.
Biden says, we need to build back.
And can they be killed
To find
in the
out
fourth
how you
dimension?
can join that effort, please text JOIN to
No.
30330 to get plugged into this campaign.
So they
and to
can't.
get
So
more
that must be
information on how to
nice.
vote and how to volunteer. Joe Biden has a plan to help work.
Can they get disease in the third dimension? Fairies? Could they live with diseases for a while?
To make sure that there were good American jobs and that Americans were safe on the job. To hear more about the Biden-Harris economic plan,
No.
please welcome Drew Down.
So they just live their natural course?
Hello, I'm
Yes.
Elizabeth Solis. The day Vice President Biden swore me in as Secretary of Labor was one of the proudest...
Mary,
moments
there's
of my
something that I heard of called wing makers. Have you ever heard of wing makers before?
Because the daughter of two blue-collar immigrants would make history and give
No.
American workers need a fighter now more than
Okay,
ever.
that's
And
interesting.
Joe Biden is that person because he has done it before.
Mary,
and I've seen
along
it
with
firsthand.
wisps and fairies, and whatever categorically those are in, like the opaque third dimensional, I don't know, like creatures. Are there Bigfoot? Do you know what first of all, do you know what Bigfoot is?
California, Senator Kamala Harris took on the big banks and won.
Yes.
But because of Donald Trump's failure,
Is Bigfoot real?
once again rescue a sinking economy. Millions
No.
of Americans are out of work, and communities
So,
of color
there's
are
no
at
such
risk.
thing as Bigfoot.
Millions of essential workers are putting their lives
You
at
said
risk
no.
with little protections.
Okay,
And
I have to
millions
ask
of
you for
just
clarification.
fired.
Is there such a
That's
thing
why
as
Joe
Bigfoot?
Biden and Kamala Harris actually have a plan.
No.
Not only to recover
Sorry for
the
asking
loss,
you so
but
many
to improve
times.
upon it, to build back better. Create
Mary, are wisps more intelligent than fairies?
back supply chains to America. That's building back better. Creating millions of jobs
No.
by investing in clean energy.
Mary, are fairies more intelligent than wisps?
And making sure that working families can afford
Yes.
childcare. That's how we
Mary,
build back better.
did fairies, do they
So let me
communicate
borrow
telepathically?
something Joe Biden said at my swearing in.
Yes.
When it comes to expanding the economy for all people, no one is going to be a stronger voice than our next president, Joe Biden. The conversation you're about to see proves it.
Mary, on the Ouija board, will I ever be able to talk to any of those musicians that you know on the Ouija board?
Behind every business, there's a family.
A lot of people clearly are in
No.
pain right now. For every farm,
Mary, I'm wondering why not.
There's hard work and there's heartbreak.
We are going to lose 20 to 30% of our small businesses.
Why? O U
This is the story of Kevin
C
and Molly Johnson,
A
family business in Lake
N
Ohio.
We have
I
10 to 12 employees
N
given day. When COVID-19
5
hit, it was a lot of
D.
confusion.
So you're saying that when I get to the fifth dimension, I can talk to them all I want.
Because we ran out of
Is that true?
and we had enough to come in for another week. If we don't get additional
You wrote
orders
yes.
in, we're gonna
Mary,
have another shutdown.
You can't make a big purchase.
Is there any way you can ask them a question for me?
When this isn't going well, it's scary.
You're kind of forgotten, right? The president always bragging about the stock market, sort of leaves a lot of small manufacturing companies behind.
We could use a
You?
little help right now, and it just seems like we get
Oh.
one step forward and then 2 steps back.
S
This is the story of Janae Green,
U
who just started a
R
clothing store, and then
E.
COVID hit.
So that was an N, not an O. You wrote, did you just write unsure?
If I was a kid, I worked really hard to save money to open this store. Did my ribbon cutting December 14th of 2000.
Okay.
And then
I was wondering about 12-tone music. Do you know what 12-tone equal tone is? Do you know what that means? 12 equal tone music?
but they stated that they had no more money and it's gone to
Yes.
a lot of the bigger businesses, the $1 million.
Do you know what Ptolemy's intense or diatonic intense scale is? Do you know what that is?
American female
Ptolemy's most famous scale?
under President Trump, I feel
Mary, when people sing and write music in the fifth dimension, is it more like 12 ET, or is it more like Ptolemy's like ratios? Is it more like ratios, or is it logarithmic?
It would be crowded in here with babies and families and crowds outside waiting to get in. It was pretty exciting. And on the day of the shutdown, we
L
actually reviewed in the Los Angeles Times.
O
That day, the virus was announced as a global
G
pandemic.
It's really, really sad to see it. If we don't
A
see this around soon, I mean, we're going to see this not just
R
for Israel, but we're going to see ghost town for mainstream USA.
Y
First decision that I had to make because 100 people are looking at you.
T
And unfortunately, the call was to
H
follow everybody. At this point, I
N
don't even see myself in business next month.
I
Este pandemia
Sí.
ha sido en su trabajo y
That's interesting. That it's more logarithmic. I like the way you spelt that. I'm not sure if that's true, but
We don't ask for much.
Logarythmic.
Feel like you're falling right now with
Um,
Restaurants are among
Mary,
the hardest businesses
I wanted to ask you about unidentified flying objects. Do you know what an unidentified flying object is?
This is the story of Dan Reiner. He's a fifth-generation farmer struggling to keep his business alive.
Yes.
I'm not so sure that President understands
Mary,
that when he thinks about business, I
so-
don't think he thinks about farmers as a business.
No, he has no clue about this.
I've seen videos of unidentified flying objects before, and I was wondering, are those videos that I see of unidentified flying objects, are any of them real?
To their advantage. What kind of trade deal is that? That's no deal. Then when COVID hit
Ah.
and everything just plummeted. Getting through now,
C.
that's the problem. That's the
A.
day-to-day battle.
N
I believe that
T.
Joe Biden will be a
S.
clear voice for us, something that we
A.
have not had.
Joe Biden has
Y.
an understanding of what the average
So you
American
said you can't
is
say.
experiencing. I think he's
So can you not say because leaders they don't want you to say?
I have a lot of confidence in Joe Biden. He's a fighter and he's the real
Yes.
deal.
We've taken a lot of.
Can you say anything about like what we consider them aliens here on the third dimension? Can you say anything about that? No.
Tonight, we've heard from the people who make America work.
Well,
People who put their lives on the line to keep our country going. And since COVID-19 hit, they've taken one gut punch after another. And what has the COVID fallout done to our babies?
Mary, someone wanted me to ask you if you are Mother Mary, and I don't think you are, but especially after the line of questioning we just asked. But I wanted to ask: are you Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary? Is that who you are?
Can safely reopen, and even fewer childcare options. The devastation is enormous, and the way I see it, big problems demand big solutions.
Well,
I love a good plan, and Joe
let me
Biden
think of
has
more
some
questions.
really good plans. Plans to bring back union jobs in manufacturing and create new union jobs in clean energy. Plans to increase Social Security benefits, cancel billions in student loan debt, and make our bankruptcy laws work for families instead of the
Mary,
creditors who cheat them.
is there other beings like not the Anshar, but like the Anshar, who end up going to the fifth dimension?
But we can build a thriving economy by investing in families and fixing what's broken.
Yes.
Joe's plan to build back better includes making the wealthy pay
So
their
there's
fair share.
beings that are like humans, but they're not like humans like you and me. Like their souls are different than. Well, first of all, is my soul like in the same category as your soul?
That's especially close to my heart. Childcare. As a little girl growing up in Oklahoma, what I
Yes.
wanted most in the world was to be a
And
teacher.
is the Anshar in the same category as my soul?
My first big teaching job down in Texas, it was hard, but I could do
No.
hard. The thing that almost sank me,
Um,
childcare. One night, my aunt
Are
beat me
there,
just to
and
chat.
then you just told me that there are beings that have souls that aren't the same category as your and my soul, but they're humanoid, the same way the Anshar and you and me are humanoid, and they're in the fifth dimension. Is that true?
I was going to quit my job. I thought my heart would break.
Yes.
And then she said the words that changed my life.
Do you know any of
I
those?
can't get there tomorrow, but I'll come on Thursday. And she arrived with
No.
7 suitcases and a Pekingese named Buddy and stayed
Mary,
for 16
do you
days
know anybody that lives on a floating city?
because of my Aunt Bee. I learned a fundamental truth. Nobody makes it on their own.
Yes.
And yet, here we are, 2 generations of working parents later. And if you have a baby and don't have an Aunt Bee, you're on your own.
Mary,
Here's one
are
thing.
there any heavily populated cities in the fifth dimension?
Bridges and communication all because
Yes.
it keeps our economy going. It's time to recognize that childcare is part of the basic infrastructure of this nation. It's infrastructure.
Are there any heavy populated floating cities in the fifth dimension?
High-quality childcare affordable for every family. Make preschool universal and raise the wages of every child care worker. Now, that's
Yes.
just one plan, but it gives you an idea of how we get this country working for everyone.
Mary, if one person believed that there was a certain amount of moons in the fifth dimension, would they be correct just because they believed there was a certain amount of a number of moons? Like if your friend believed that there was 5 moons in the fifth dimension, and you believed there was a different amount of moons in the fifth dimension, could you both be correct?
Millions out of work, millions more trapped in cycles of poverty, millions on the brink of losing their homes, millions of restaurants and stores hanging by a thread. This crisis is bad.
No.
And it didn't have to be this way.
So there is definitely objective reality in the fifth dimension. Is that true?
Republicans who enabled him. On November
Yes.
3rd, we will hold them all accountable. So, whether you're planning to vote wearing a mask or vote by mail, please take out your phone right now and text VOTE to 30330. We all need to be
Just trying to think
get
now,
Joe
Mary.
and Kamala elected. And after November, we all need to stay in the fight to get big things done. We stay in this fight so that when our children and our grandchildren ask what
Mary,
we did during
can you
this
tell me
war
anything,
in
like,
our
please,
nation's
about
history,
how I dream
we'll be able
and
to
like
make this
music is
really
composed in my
and
dreams?
say
Like I had a dream last night, and there was definitely music in my dream. Can you tell me anything about that? Like how that occurs? Like, am I creating that music? Yeah, let me ask that. Am I creating the music that occurs in my dreams?
Choosing Joe Biden to be his vice president was one of the best decisions he ever made. And this is a man who
Yes.
has made a lot of good decisions, making healthcare more affordable and accessible.
Mary, am I
rescuing our
am I
economy,
creating that
protecting
music like
American jobs,
automatically, or do I like actually like compose it
and through it
with
all,
the rules of music theory or guidelines of music theory? Am I
you can witness their mutual respect.
like am I just doing it instantly, like from memory, from like pieces of music that I've heard in my memory, and I just sort of put it together, or am I like composing it from scratch?
For your love of country and for your lifetime of service that will endure through the generations, I'd like to ask
B
the military aide to join
O
the stage.
T H.
For the final
Doing
time
both.
as president, I am pleased to award
Mary, is there any message that you have for me before I go? No. Mary, I've been sleeping and I've been saying lots of negative things like upon waking up and like before going to bed. Are you aware that I'm doing that? Yes. Mary, what do you think about the things that I'm thinking before and after bed? What do you think about that? H T or IT H A R
level of veneration.
M
My 3 most recent successors, reserved for only 3 others:
S
Pope John Paul II, President Ronald Reagan, and
Y
Colin Powell. Ladies and gentlemen,
O
I'm proud to award the Presidential Medal of
U
Freedom with distinction to
R
my brother, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Will the aide please read the citation?
Y
Vice President Joseph R. Biden, Jr. In a career of public
A
service spanning nearly half a century, Vice President
S
Joseph R. Biden, Jr. has left his mark on almost every part of our nation, fighting for a
L.
stronger middle class, a fairer judicial
It
system,
harms.
and a
Did you
stronger
write it
workforce,
harms your?
providing unyielding support for our troops, combating
What was the word you wrote after your? I didn't get that.
To cure cancer and safeguarding the landmark American Recovery and Reinvestment Act from corruption.
H
With his charm, candor, unabashed
E
optimism, and deep and abiding
A
patriotism, Joe Biden has
R
garnered the respect and esteem of colleagues
T.
of both parties.
It harms my heart. So I've got a. So did you write it harms my heart?
Faith and grace to overcome great personal tragedy. This son of Scranton, Claymont, and Wilmington has become one of the most consequential.
So would you recommend me to try and just not think those negative thoughts anymore before and after bed?
And grandfather. A grateful nation thanks Vice President Joseph R. Biden Jr. for his lifetime of service on behalf of the United States of America.
Okay, I'll try. I'll try to stop doing that. I know I think lots of negative thoughts. So, how many threads do you give me? 7, 1, 9. And how many threads do I give you?
It's not a normal time.
1,
So tonight I want to talk as plainly as I can about the
2,
stakes in this election.
3.